Oh, jeez.
It's a coaster. It was a coaster, but it's at like 400%.
Okay, I'm sending data to YouTube now. I guess the YouTube API is having intermittent outages, but I have requested the streams go to YouTube, so we're live in all the places, so you can kick off whenever you want to, Handsome.
Right. Well, welcome to a self-hosted hangout about Home Assistant this evening. I thought, given the current climate and everything that's going on in the world, we might want some distractions, myself included. And so I thought, why not talk to you fine people about Home Assistant and share some interesting and cool stuff that we've been up to. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome my co-host for this evening, Chris Fisher.
Hello, sir. Thank you for having me. I'm here pushing the buttons, and running things. Buttons. Barely pushing them. But I get a round of applause anyways. How about that? I guess that's how it works when you run the board.
Yeah. The people in the board are very appreciative of you pushing those buttons.
I haven't seen your Home Assistant setup since you did the Nuke and Pave a little bit. Was it before your move or after your move?
Yeah, I've done a couple actually. So I did one about a month before I moved for some reason. I can't remember what it was. I had a good reason.
You switched to Hass.io, I think.
Oh, yeah, that was it. I love how you can remember better than me. And then about 2 weeks ago, I just got so fed up of all the hangovers from my old house still being in just the odd name of a variable or something being the old house or the old location of a bulb or something. I was like, right, screw this. We're going to go nuclear and start again. So, let's do some Home Assistant stuff, shall we? So let's get rid of my face.
That does sound kind of appealing when I think about how I do have like legacy device names already.
Yeah. So this is my primary Home Assistant homepage. It doesn't look like a lot, but there's actually quite a lot hidden. So if we look under all of these things, I have individual bulbs, under collapsed. I think these are called fold entity cards or something like that. So if we go into the configure UI section,
is this something that's part of an add-on, or is this built in that I just haven't noticed? Hit the plus down on the when you.
This is built in. So this is one of the things that took me a while to know. And I was watching a Dr. Z's video.
This is going to change everything for me already. Your very first tip. Yeah, configure UI, and then I think you're looking for the plus that shows up in the bottom right.
Well, yeah, if you click the plus button down here, you get a whole bunch of, let's just add my iPad, for example.
Sure.
Battery level. This is coming off of the Home Assistant app running on the iPad. And it pulls in that sensor data from the iPad, and you can see that, as of 28 minutes ago, my iPad's battery level was 58%.
Which is kind of neat. You could trigger a smart plug charger. So you didn't want to overcharge your iPad. So you could have Home Assistant turn a smart plug on when it reaches 30% and turn it off when it reaches 60 to 70%. I was just reading research that shows that lithium-ion batteries, if you're going to store them, the 40 to 50% range is kind of the comfortable range for storage.
And what's super nice so I'm running Home Assistant. I don't even know how to show you what version. Info, there we go. 0.107.5, which came out this week, within the last week or so. And there's been a bunch of really nice little changes in the UI. And I include in that, if I go into the configure section for this card again, nope, hold on. If I click on the card under settings, that's it. You can have icons now. So you can literally go in here and say, battery. And it will show you this. And then I think if it's you do -50, it's a half empty. If you do 10, it's low. So you can have little things like that. There's if you go to the MDI icons website, material design icons, you can search for all sorts of icons. So I use one for my garage door. So I have different icons depending on if my garage door is open or closed. You can see how there's just little things like that, visual things, very small tweaks make a huge difference to the overall look and feel of an interface. So you can see my garage doors are closed right now. If they were to open, that would change to an open icon. But because we're not going anywhere, because the zombies are coming, it's been closed for days. So, but yes, let's go back into the configure UI section and just take a look at what else is in this latest update. Now, in 106, which this 107 update is brand new. This whole ad section here has had a huge overhaul, and it's really fantastic. So you hopefully get a pretty good idea of all the different things that you can put into your user interface this way. So let's take a sensor, for example. The humidity in my basement's a little high right now, but I can go in and these are all the sensors that I have, right? I could have a sensor that tracks the SSID strength of my iPad if I wanted to, or the temperature in my basement, or now, up until this release, this particular card was an extra add-on. So I think it was called Home Assistant Simple Graph Card or something like that. Mini graph card, close enough.
Okay.
So this was how you could make really sexy little graphs before. But now, with the new update, it's just built right in. And if you want to go in and add extra things, you can do that. And I don't know how you add multiple ones to the same one, but it's possible.
Yeah, it looks good when you got multiple lines in there.
I don't want to have to look it up, though. There's a whole bunch of other stuff I've got. So, for example, my Plex, I've got a sensor that detects how many people are watching Plex right now. So I can see that, over the last hour or so, there's been someone's watching Contagion. Oh my God.
Now's not the time.
Yeah, what else have we got? So if we click in related, this is actually better to do on the iPad one. So if we go under the related section here, you can see what the integration is that's generating that data. And in this case, it's the iPad app. But then you can look at all the different things that the iPad integration is collecting. So you can see the last update was collected through a background API fetch. You can look at the fact and see that I have no SIM card. You can see that my iPad was at home, for example. So this is something else that I do under map here. You can see that I have a few different places around Raleigh that we have designated as different places. So this is somewhere that my wife goes to a course every week. Well, not at the moment, but normally. So when she arrives at the course, her little icon here changes, the state changes to be that, using Life 360, it says, Catherine's arrived at her course, and sends me a little notification. And then I know when she's leaving. And, if you were at an office every day, you could set it up so that the moment you left that zone, the heating could come on, or the oven could turn on, or a crock pot could turn on, or anything like that. So
that's what I use it for the heating part.
Not a crock pot.
And specifically too, leaving. If we leave, I actually find that to be the most valuable, is if we're gone for a certain amount of time, just turn off the heat. We don't need to run electric heat if we're not there. And that's really nice. But then it's nice to also have it turn on a little early when you come back too, if you did that.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk you guys through maybe something called ESP Home for a little bit, which is how I do a bunch of the sensors in my house. So this guy, which I'm going to hold up to the, hold on a second. Here we go, which I'm going to hold up to this camera over here. This guy is a D1 Mini, and it's connected to a little temperature probe. So what you're looking at there on the table is about, I think it's about $2 if you order it from China. It's about $4 if you order it from China. So it's about $6 worth of gear. And that allows me to get the temperature and humidity to a reasonably accurate level.
Is it using Wi-Fi?
Yeah, straight into Home Assistant. And we configure that using YAML, using ESP Home. So if we look under here, for example, you can see that my this particular one is the one out of my bedroom, and you configure it using very, very simple YAML. Oh, I've just put my password on the internet. Oh well.
Welcome to streaming.
I should probably change that now. And then there's a bunch of other stuff, but up until ESP Home came along, to configure these things, you would need to know how to use the Arduino IDE to program stuff. But now with these lines of code, I can go into the ESP Home. Let me show you the website. It's pretty cool. So if I look for DHT22 sensor, DHT temperature and humidity sensor, that is the exact one. If I hold it up to the camera, focus is a bit questionable, but you get the idea. It's the same sensor.
Yeah.
Right. And simply by copying and pasting this code from here into this YAML file, I've now created an Arduino basically compatible bin file. So what I can do is once I've created that YAML file, I can compile it. And this is compiling on the Home Assistant box downstairs. Oh, yes. Hold on a second.
Uh-oh.
Stand by.
All
Stand by. Because I'm running it through a reverse proxy, there are a couple of things that don't work, and terminal windows seem to be one of them. So if I access it straight through the IP, works just fine. So now if I go to compile, it works just fine. Thanks, Chris. So what this is doing is it's actually using PIO, Platformio, to compile the binary that I need to flash onto my ESP8266 chip. So I think it's super cool. I think that's really easy compared to how you used to have to compile stuff in the past. You saw how fast it was as well. And then if I want to upload that binary, I'm going to plug this guy in. You realize what fat monkey fingers you have when you're on camera.
Cameras add 10 pounds to fingers. Everyone knows that.
That's going to power up and you'll see it come online. There you go. It literally came online right there.
Cool.
And then I can go in here and I can look at the logs from that sensor. So that will tell me when it's connected to the SSID, what the signal strength is. And it does all that over MDNS, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and then you can see GPIO pin 12 for a DHT22 sensor. Yeah, and that's currently the temperature in my office right now, 22 degrees nearly, because I use real units, and 50% humidity in here. So that's how difficult it is to make temperature sensors. So yeah, for $6 a room, my plan is to have one, probably 3 or 4 on this floor and 3 or 4 on the ground floor, and then use an averaging feature in Home Assistant to actually control my thermostats instead of with a typical thermostat. It's based on the particular location in the house it's in, usually a hallway or something.
I want to do that in the RV. So, but before we get to that, I have a question. So, and I think the answer is yes, but there is just a straightforward ESP Home integration with Home Assistant. This isn't you coming through like MQTT or something. No.
So we didn't really go into the App Store side of it, the add-on thing. So they've renamed and rebranded Home Assistant fairly recently. So if you look under Supervisor now, here is where you can add all of the plugins and stuff like that. So the one that we're using is called ESP Home, which is right here. Now, to install it, I mean, obviously I've got it installed already, but you would go to Add-on Store, just here. In the case of ESP Home, you have to add a repo, but most of the other add-ons are official ones. So ESP Home, once you've added the repo, just shows up here. You click Install and show in sidebar, and you see how it's not on the left anymore, and now it's on the left. That's it. So let me show you something that I don't have installed.
Okay.
I don't know what I want to get. Let's do AdGuard. Why not? So I'm going to click Install.
Are you installing now essentially a DNS and DHCP server? Like, what does all that mean? Seems like that's a low level.
I'm installing an ad blocker on my Home Assistant VM.
Right.
And if I wanted to, I could route all the DNS from my network through the Home Assistant VM and have it do ad blocking for me.
It's striking to me, though, because that must also include a DNS server, right?
Yep. So I'm going to turn SSL off here. So this is generally the way most of these things work.
Okay.
Is they have an install button up here with auto update and show in sidebar on the side, and then you scroll down. There's usually a bit of documentation of telling you about what the app is and does, and then you configure it. Usually in this area, expose the Docker ports that you want, because this is just standing up a Docker container, and then you click start, and that's it.
In the background, it must be doing the...
You click refresh, you can see the container starting up
yeah,
here.
it's pulling the container, launching it. Yeah.
I click on add guard, and then I'm done.
Who needs Pi-hole?
I think it does Pi-hole too. I can't remember, but I mean, isn't that insanely easy?
Yes. All right, you're making me want to deploy Hass.io instead of just straight home.
Let me get rid of that, because again, it's a container. It's just a couple of clicks and it's gone.
And
it's done.
gone.
It's tidied up.
And it's gone.
Should we look for Pi-hole? Should we see if there's a Pi-hole?
Yeah. Yep, there it is. There it is. That makes a lot of sense, because you can just run Pi-hole as a container. So
I'm going to install it and have a look. I haven't looked at Pi-hole for a while.
it's nice.
Let's do show in sidebar. Let's turn off SSL, because we're not currently in SSL mode. That might need configuring, but we'll see.
What is SSL mode? What does that mean? It's like you'd need to get a cert for the Home Assistant box?
I think so. So here I'm using a reverse proxy, but here I'm not.
Ah, right. I do notice they have a Let's Encrypt in add-on.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Pi-hole.
Maybe not all of them work. It's
well,
not
it's
done
still
yet.
pending.
Yeah. Give it a
was
moment,
just being
Alex.
patient.
You know, it's standing up an entire container. Give it a moment. Pi-hole will
Right.
be a DHCP server, a DNS server. I mean, you think about it. In a way, this is
Done.
It's almost too easy for home users to deploy pretty critical infrastructure. But is it now updated through the add-on store? How does that work?
Yep. Updates coming this way. So there's an auto update option.
Ah.
Or when you have an update pending, it just shows up at the top here saying, you have an update. Same with the system. It will say, you have a supervisor update, you have a host system, a HassOS update. You'll get a notification, usually down here in the notifications section.
Can you run Hass.io as a container, or does it have to be a whole OS?
So I run it as a VM.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do.
It's the recommended way that they do it these days. So you can do it, I think. It's not called Hass.io anymore. They did a rebrand lately.
Yeah, I know.
So they've changed it to Home Assistant Core now. So if you run Home Assistant today in a Docker, you are running Home Assistant Core. Mm-hmm. Home Assistant Core will forever remain a standalone app like it is today. So we're renaming Hass.io to Home Assistant and Home Assistant to Home Assistant Core. That's the key difference. So if you just want to run a container on your Pi, you're actually running.
That's what
Home
I do now.
Core.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I do want the supervisor stuff and the store and all of that. So I think next time I do reload, which I might do in the summer, I just don't really feel like dedicating an entire box, but that's for a future topic.
The thing is, they support the Raspberry Pi 4 look as a proper.
Yeah.
So you download and extract the image for your device. So Raspberry Pi 4 is one of the listed devices.
That's nice. It's nice to see support officially.
Mm-hmm. And then you'll have access to all of this stuff on the Pi.
That's pretty cool.
I'm going to remove Pi-hole.
I noticed in the past you'd use different themes and stuff like that. You're not going into that as much yet, or do you think you just haven't gotten there yet?
I do have different themes. I have a lovely orange dark one.
Oh, that is nice.
So when I'm working late at night, it's not burning my eyeballs.
Jeez, I think I'd use that all the time. I like that.
Yeah, it is really nice. Now, so we've looked at the add-on store. Mm-hmm. There is something built in to do with snapshots, which I think you would like.
Oh, okay.
So let me have a look. Snap.
It's like a backup?
Google, yeah. So actually I added it through this Hass.io Google Drive backup.
So you can add external repositories outside the App Store, eh?
Yeah, that's how I did it with ESP Home. And so this guy here, which I'll put a link in the IRC for, This is an automatic Google Drive backup plugin, and it rotates snapshots for you automatically. So you can tell it, I want to keep 3 Hass.io snapshots locally, and I want to keep 50 in Google Drive, and it will rotate the snapshots based on that policy for you.
What's the restoration process like?
Don't know. Should we try and do it? Should I clone this VM?
You're me. Oh, all right, let's do it. What could go wrong?
Hass clone. Back it up. So this is just a VMware box that I run to do a bunch of my OpenShift stuff for work. So let's put it on the NVMe, make it nice and fast.
The last time I used a vSphere client, it was Windows only. It required you to have a Windows box.
Not anymore, baby.
They've actually turned it in. It's kind of the same UI. It's just a web version of it that's more modern looking.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I have not used vSphere and VMware in a very long time.
Is this taking you back?
Yeah. How would you say the performance compares to Hyper-V, which is what I always use now?
Hyper-V?
Yeah. I mean, not Hyper-V. Geez.
No idea.
Not Hyper-V. Where did that cut?
I was confused.
No, KVM. I've been using WSL2 recently. That's why I thought Hyper-V. No, I meant KVM. You know, like with virtual Virt Manager or boxes. Like, how is the performance? Because that's what my baseline is these days.
Well, we're cloning a 50 gig VM right now, so maybe that'll tell you something.
Well, I mean that's disk. I mean, like the actual machine performance. Like, how close is it to KVM?
I mean, I can't tell the difference.
Okay.
The way I see it is VMware have put years and years and years of R&D into making the hypervisor as good as it can be. Not saying that KVM isn't great, because it is, and I use it on my desktop to do PCI pass-through every single day.
Yeah.
But the reason I run VMware on my server is because I run a lot of Terraform scripts to build up and destroy OpenShift clusters every day. And so I need something that has an API that I can reliably, and I know that KVM sort of kind of does, but it doesn't work in a way that I can then translate to my customers, which is what I need. So unfortunately, I'm stuck with VMware, quote unquote.
I mean, if it works for you, it's not so bad.
Yeah, I think it's great. Yeah. So the Hass clone has come up now. So let's bring this guy up and see what happens. I don't know what IP address it's going to get.
I suppose if this was a bare install, you would just do a base install of Hass.io and then install this add-on and then do a restoration. Yeah?
Maybe we could do that in a future stream.
I was just trying to think that through, because that's not such a bad process. If you got to load you can load the latest Hass.io. That's not going to take that long, especially since it's sort of an all-contained OS.
It is a bit strange, the way which they structure all the containers and stuff like that. So if you go into, there's a terminal button here, which drops you onto the Home Assistant command line.
Oh, very good.
Like if I try and run, you don't
have it.
LS is there.
Yep.
Is Bash there? Bash is there.
What about top? There's good old top.
That's top inside this container.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very limited slice,
which isn't that useful. No. So if I do HA help and look at HA core, for example, there's a bunch of stuff I can do here, like HA core stats. It tells me what my CPU percentage is at the moment on the host, which is kind of useful. But I ran into an issue the other day where for some reason my CPU was pegged at 100%. No idea why. And I couldn't figure it out. So there is a downside to this abstraction for people that like to just jump in and run HTOP and see what's going on.
Which would be
can't. You can't very easily. You can go through, and I'll show you now. I don't need to do that. I can go in here. Is it going to load? Yes. So root. Yes. Now I'm on the command line. You can see that good. I thought it had truncated slightly. So if I do help, what do I get here? Can I do exit? Does that just log me out? Okay. There is a way to get to the host itself somehow. But I can't remember what it is.
Oh, really? They let you do that?
Well, they used to. It doesn't look like
you can break out
things there anymore. Yeah. HA core. Anyway, I'm getting distracted.
Yeah.
What's our IP address? Oh, right. Can't just run IPA like I want to. Luckily for me, it has VMware Tools installed, so I can just grab it this way.
There you go. How did you get that installed on
it? I think it comes pre-baked.
Ooh, I like that.
Open VM Tools.
Yeah.
This is the second instance, and as you can see, it's identical. So let's delete some stuff as a test, huh?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Delete that. Yeah. Which took me hours to figure out and organize all of these.
You maniac. Oh wait,
yeah.
Hold on, that's your production IP.
You did make my heart stop for a second then. You got me good. So, right, let's go into the Google Drive backup here. Open the web UI. So these are my snapshots. And I want to restore the one from yesterday at 4:30 a.m. Let's do this. Restore.
All right.
Snapshots must be restored through the Hass.io snapshots page. You can restore a snapshot by... Okay.
All right, let's go there. Let's find out. Okay.
Click on that.
Oh, look at that. You can choose individual aspects to restore, too.
Mm-hmm. Wipe and restore. I like that. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's see what happens.
How the heck is it even doing this?
Connection lost.
So this must be an add-on container that is able to rewrite the state of the other containers, or at least the main one.
And now if you look at all of this vEth stuff happening down here, that means there's a bunch of containers stopping and starting and changing their IP table rules and stuff like that so that they presumably come back up none the wiser.
I like that a lot. That's pretty nice.
It's nice.
Especially if I was going to set this up for family. I messed something up.
Yes, I mean, you could do that on the Pi quite easily.
Yeah, for sure, I will.
And there we go. Looks like we're back. So let's
see.
Look at my UI. Is it back as it was?
Survey says yes.
Ding, ding, ding.
Very nice.
Yeah, so it's back as it was. So, yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to know why you should run critical infrastructure in a VM, that's exactly why, because you can tinker about with a copy of it and then...
You just verified your disaster recovery plan.
I did, yeah. So I can now just go ahead and delete that and I'm good to go.
That's pretty great. But it's a really good use of Docker technologies to pull all that off too.
Yep. Now, how are we doing on time? Okay, 37 minutes in. Not doing too bad. What else should I show you then? I'm going to show you the Home Assistant community store next, because this is, you see how I've got a bunch of pending upgrades here?
Yeah.
Can I do them all at once? Upgrade all. There we go. So what Hacks does is Home Assistant community store. That's this thing. We've covered it in the show a couple of times. And this is for like third-party apps that aren't official, that are not yet part of the core Home Assistant product. Product air quotes, like that mini graph card, for example. That you used to install that through here, so I wonder if you still can. Have a look. Yeah, mini graph card. In fact, I still have it installed through this way.
And so this is how you got the snapshot installed. It was through Hacks?
No, that was actually through...
so there's a third way you can do it, which is adding repos directly.
Correct, yes. So the first way is the official add-on store,
right?
Which are here. Things like Almond, DuckDNS, Let's Encrypt, that kind of stuff, MQTT broker. In the official area, there is a way to add repos to the official add-on store. It is a little chaotic. I agree. Now I'm explaining it.
No, I get it though. So you have the official add-on store under Supervisor. You have Hacks, which is a community store, and then you also through the Supervisor can add third-party repositories that are just at this point GitHub pages, essentially.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
And then these repos show up in the official page. But confusingly, under the official add-on store page, there is a community add-ons section, which is maintained by Frank. And this is where some of the really cool stuff for me comes in, like, Pi-hole, PHPMyAdmin, if you're stuck in 10 years ago.
I love it. MQTT server, that's
Holding
nice.
at home. Hey, look at that. We could be topical.
You know what? That's pretty great. I should consider doing that here on the studio, Naz.
Yeah. You could host your own wiki, your own password manager. And this is what I was trying to say in the show a couple of weeks ago, in that I think Home Assistant is really turning into the one-stop shop for almost everything, really. Like, you could run it as a Spotify Connect node. You could run it as a Plex server, Unify. Like, these are, WireGuard's in there as well. The Lounge, the IRC thing we talked about last week. All of these things are services that Grossi, which is coming up in a future self-hosted. All of these things you used to have to write Docker Compose for, or go and find them, and now they're just click, done.
Yeah, and they're making they're giving you links to support the developers on GitHub or Patreon, which is nice to put that front and center. I also noticed something else that was on that list was Plex. You could launch Plex server right from there.
Yep.
Huh. TrackCar, which is something I've been considering setting up for some of my road trips. TrackCar is a GPS tracking platform that you can host yourself with a client that runs on your phone to track you.
Nginx Proxy Manager, huh? There is all sorts of cool stuff. So this is the official kind of, I want to say, ordained list of apps that are in containers that are known to work well. And I think everything on here, I think the distinction that I'm sort of thinking about in my mind right now is these are containers that will run alongside Home Assistant, whereas stuff in the Hacks store is integrations and plugins to Home Assistant, for Home Assistant. So stuff like the Lovelace cards that I have on my home screen, for example. So these drop downs are not standard things. You have to, so if I go into the configure UI section and go into the YAML, you can see here I have a custom fold entity as my card type. And you get those through the Hacks store, which is really nice. So let's go ahead and upgrade those. Why not? Whilst we're here. And I'm just upgrading these cards. And I don't actually have a lot of fear about doing this because, as I've just shown you, we have a really robust backup system in place. Yeah. So there's all sorts of stuff in here. There's themes. If I want to change to, a different theme, I can download extra ones here. So I got Orange Dark through here, which is this one, which is really quite nice, I think. There's lots of themes, which is nice. Plugins are there too. So I don't know. Let's just have a look through, see what we can get. This is where I got my robot vacuum card. So in my, where is it? There we go. In my second page of my interface, I have a couple of cards that show me where my RoboVacs go. I have one for upstairs and one for downstairs. And they're both running Valetudo, so they're running Ubuntu. And, technically they run Ubuntu anyway. Valetudo just opens up SSH through, runs an extra service on them. So they're running Ubuntu 14.04, which worries me a little bit. But
these are the aspects of these integrated all-one stacks that I'm not a big fan of. I'd rather implement my own host OS and then manage that aspect of it. But I think your argument of using a hypervisor to sort of be the middle manager, where you could also take snapshots at that level, that adds a layer of protection, I think, from that kind of stuff. So you've kind of talked me into that approach, is a base OS or a base VM OS, and then load everything on top of that, even if it's containers. So when next time I wipe and reset up, I think I'm going to go that route.
I haven't even shown you Node-RED yet, or VS Code.
No, obviously I've been looking at those on the on the sidebar there.
So this is how I do my Home Assistant configuration. It's done in VS Code inside Home Assistant.
Stop it. Can it read you can read the Home Assistant file system?
Yeah.
Stop it. That is so great. And you have like the YAML plugins, I presume, and whatnot into here. So it's all got the proper syntax. Stop it.
Yeah, so if I go into my lights, for example, this you're going to love this, and I want to add a light, I can do light dot, and then it actually lists all the entities that are available for me.
That is really nice. Oh my goodness, that is nice.
Now, I've got a few Sonoff switches around the house, and they present themselves to Home Assistant as switches. So if you have a switch that you want to use as a light, you have to do this kind of dance here. But then once I've created this name of outdoor bin light, you should see down here in the outdoor lights, I have light.outdoor bin light. So you can do stuff like that really easily, just all in one place. And then I have, in my main configuration YAML, I tend to like breaking everything out into separate includes files. So it keeps it nice and tidy. So my climate, for example, is there. I have a thermostat upstairs and a separate one downstairs. So I have that in a separate file. My InfluxDB stuff is, I'm not going to show it in case there's a password in there. I think it's in secrets, but I'm not
learning.
certain. Input booleans are quite nice. So this is a way for me to determine whether the house is occupied or not. So that as part of my home automation Node-RED kind of flows that I have, which we'll go on to in a minute, I can use that Boolean to tell whether the house is empty or not, and then do certain things based on that Boolean state, which is quite nice. The bedtime routine, which you're familiar with from when you came to stay with me, is an input Boolean as well. So when I click, let's go over here.
Inspired a similar, I actually set mine up as a script, is how I did mine. It's a bedtime script.
So I have this button over here on the main interface, which when I click it, which I'm not going to, the whole house has like 25 minutes to enter into bedtime mode. So
I like that it's just an icon like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, there's all sorts of cool ideas floating around on the Home Assistant subreddit. I take zero credit for everything that's on there. I've just copied other people's stuff.
Good idea.
So yeah, what you can see here, this is my Node-RED configuration. So this is presence detection. It's a bit complicated. So let's do a simpler one. Yeah, this is nice and simple. So at 7:30 a.m. every day, this node, or it's actually 8 a.m. So I should change that. This node gets triggered at 8 a.m. every day. It checks to see, is the input Boolean home occupied true? And the default here is if true, continue. And then it goes and does a switch to turn on. And these are some of my smart plugs that I have around the place. So I have one on a smart TV downstairs because on idle it draws about 15 to 20 watts. No need for it to be doing that when I'm asleep. So I just turn it off and then it turns back on again at 8 a.m. every day. Same for my garage door opener. No need for that to be pulling 5 watts whilst I'm asleep. And, there's a bunch of other switches in there. And then a nice little bug is that the TV likes to turn on when you supply it with power. So what I do is delay for 60 seconds and then call the media player turn off service, which actually turns off the TV that's just trying to turn on.
Got it. That's nice. And you find this, I imagine, from a workflow standpoint, but maybe also from a power standpoint, is better than what Home Assistant has built in for automations?
Well, for a simple flow like this, they're about the same. So the Home Assistant equivalent would be under Developer Tools, Configuration. There is an automation section. Now, this has had a lot of work actually since I made the decision to go to Home, to go to Node-RED. But a really simple example is I have in my garage, I have 4 light strips, like LED strips on one light switch. And then on a completely different circuit with a completely different separate switch, like physically on 2 separate, I have to flip 2 breakers to turn them both off. I have another light which controls the light in the sort of nook in the back corner of my garage.
So it's they act as one, essentially.
Well, that's what this automation does, yeah. So when I turn on the garage nook lights, when I turn on the main lights in the garage, the lights in the nook turn on as well.
Yeah.
But the ones in the nook are controlled through a Sonoff basic running TAS motor. And the ones in the main part of the garage are controlled through a Shelly in the light switch, which is really nice. So if we go and look at how simple this is, The basic premise to an automation is a trigger. So when you trigger an automation, you have a bunch of different states that you can use, different events, to do triggers. There are, let's have a look at the page here. Event triggers, Home Assistant triggers, MQTT, numeric states. So this is useful, for example, for heating. So if a room gets above a certain temperature or below, you can do an automation accordingly. And then, so in this case, for me, the trigger is a state change of the garage main lights from any state, because I could set that from off to on, but I want to just do that from any state, even though realistically it's only going to be off or on, being a light, to on. And I could say for, 10 seconds. And then it would turn on the lights in the Nook, but I want both to turn on at the same time, so I left it like this. You could have conditions, so it could say if it's a certain within a certain time frame, so the condition could be, if the time is after 6 or probably 1800, isn't it? Before 2100, then it will do this, but otherwise don't. So conditions are quite useful. You could say, like, if motion's detected but nobody's home, for example, don't do this. And then under actions, this is where it actually just does the basic switch.turn on garage Nook, and it's really rapid. I have a video somewhere. I'll see if I can pull it up. I'm not going to put that. Trying to do too many things, Alex. I'll get the video up in a second, but yeah, it's up to you whether you want to do. For basic automations, there's nothing wrong with the Home Assistant automation.
Yeah, other than when it starts to get a little complicated. Plus, you have the visual aspect of Node-RED, which is really appealing. This works for sure, but Node-RED, you can almost visually comprehend what it's doing. Mm-hmm. So I like that.
Yeah, I can't find the video.
I'm a visual kind of guy.
Take my word for it. It's instant. Now, the really cool one that I have spent quite a lot of time on is bedtime routine. And as you can see, it gets pretty complicated.
It's beautiful. It looks like a jack wiring diagram on a Linux box for jack audio.
But the basic essence of it is, excuse me, I've done a lot of talking today. The input Boolean bedtime routine is triggered. That's so it doesn't matter whether the input Boolean is true or false. What it detects here is a state change of the input Boolean. So it's triggered every time, no matter what. The first thing it does is, by the way, to make these connections, it's simply a case of click here, drag there, and you're done. If I wanted to do something, I can, grab a node over here. I can say, right, let's do, I don't know, Home Assistant, restart.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And then it's done. So that's how easy it is to actually, call a service to turn a light on or something like that. So the first one I have is this one, which does, which sets my thermostats to overnight temperatures, 10 Celsius or whatever. The next one, it turns on my bedroom fan. I want to add a check in here, which is if bedroom is over a certain temperature, then turn on the fan. Otherwise, don't. But the nice thing here is it delays for 2 hours and then it turns it off again. So it's not running the fan all night, which isn't really what you need. Mm-hmm. It does a little text to speech translation for Google Home, which is nice.
I love that part. That is really, because it's sort of like a more Star Trek aspect to it, because the system's speaking to you. Routine started,
Yep.
That's cool.
And then you can see over here for the next 20 minutes or whatever, it goes through and it dims a bunch of stuff, and I just think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, you can just sort of read it right to left or left to right. Delay 5 minutes, then you set the bedroom lamp to 25%. Delay 2 minutes, then you turn off the bedroom lamps. It's nice and simple, makes sense.
So yeah, I mean, Node-RED takes a bit to get your head around, and you can get really crazy. This one is for a soldering iron button that I press, and it turns on the soldering iron for a bunch of time, and it has a recurring timer, and then it will automatically turn the soldering iron off if I don't press the button. It's like a dead man's switch, really.
Smart. Good for you.
Yeah. So.
And is there an extensive process to get this to be able to read the Home Assistant sensors and all of that kind of stuff, or is it just you set it up through this add-ons and it just reads it automatically?
Because it is the one that ships with Home Assistant, it's already got the Home Assistant plugin turned on, and then it's just ready to go.
Good. Very good.
Couldn't be simpler.
I love it. Well, you get me all fired up again. Make me want to reload my box, which is not a good thing, Alex. It's not.
So in the chat room, do we have any questions?
People
very quiet.
Yeah, people are just loving the lounge, the IRC front end.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Which is great in there. And then other than that, they're talking about the pandemic because, pandemic.
The what?
I don't know. Have you heard anything? I haven't heard anything. Well, great. Thank you, sir. How about I play a little Pickle Rick as an appreciation for your efforts? All right. Well, we should mention before we wrap up tonight that we have a fresh episode of Self-Hosted coming out this week where we answer folks' questions. Alex teased it there. We have a special pick for helping inventory your life.
All the toilet paper.
Yeah, or that. Could work for that. Absolutely. So selfhosted.show for that. And also selfhosted.show/contact for your ideas for future live streams. Thank you, Alex.
Stay safe, Chris, and wash your hands.
I'm going to go wash my hands right now. Are you still recording by chance?
Yes.
Let's do a count because we never did one at the beginning to sync it up. So I'll count to 4. You jump in at 4, okay?
Kai.
1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
Let's do it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
Sweet. All right, I'm going to hit stop recording. Thanks. Boom. Pow.
Wow.
Bop, 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 bop. Bong. Well, it's dinner time over here, sir.
Are we still streaming, or are we done?
Yeah, but I can transition us off. I'll just say good thank you, chat room. We had a handful of people on Twitch, and then we had 2 handfuls of people on YouTube. So I think we had like 30-ish, 40-ish people watching. Not a huge crowd, but not bad for one day notice. Less than. What, 6 hours notice, actually? So that's pretty good. And then, of course, we have a special before we go, something that is highly demanded. Where is it? Oh, no, it's not on the board. We have a new guy running the board now. Somebody that knows. Jeez.
I am worried that I don't think it was recording my audio.
Oh, well,
That could be fun.
These things happen. They happen, Alex. It's all right. We'll get by. All right. Well, I'll play out your little music there, chat room. Thank you guys for being here. You guys, what we'll have going for you on the other end is the reruns. So stand by for that if you're sticking around. Yeah. Well, there's a new guy for the soundboard. That's true. Did you hear? Somebody Noah recommended, and then Wes hired him. It's not our fault. So any malfunctions are really this new guy's fault. I gotta talk to Wes about it. I think it was a plant, a mole. Anyways, thanks for being here. You look like you don't believe it. It's true. He's sitting right next to me right now. It's real. It's real, guys. Why wouldn't you believe that?
I hope you're keeping your social distance.
I'm Wes with your Linux headlines on March 16th, 2020. The next production run of the Pinebook Pro is set to come pre-installed with Manjaro KDE. While fallout from the current global health scare